So Tony Stark is basically the coolest superhero alter ego ever to grace the silver screen. We're just gonna let that hang there for a second. I mean, the guy oozes charisma. You're never quite sure whether you want to punch him, applaud him, or say, hey, can we be best friends? The guy is the quintessential annoying, egotistical billionaire, and yet we can't help but love him. Welcome back to The Binger, guys, and in celebration of Robert Downey Jr.'s tenure as Iron Man, we're going to be ranking Tony Stark's most epic moments. And as we're focusing on the man behind the mask, we're looking at times where his personality shone through most, from small snarky remarks to times where he blew our minds with his genius. Because who needs a highly weaponized armored suit when you've got sarcasm?
And then swarm after.
When 2008's Iron Man launched the Marvel Cinematic Universe, we didn't quite know what to expect. Sure, we'd all heard of characters like Spider-Man and Hulk, but not many of us were familiar with Iron Man and the alter ego Tony Stark. Within the first few minutes, however, we knew exactly what we were in for. On the surface, it's a weapons expert showing off a new product. But really, it's a quick look at the enigmatic Tony Stark and what he's all about. He's got the brains, we can see that from the destructive gust behind him, but he's also got the gravitas and ego, the kind of guy who says it's best to be both feared and respected while wearing a pinstripe suit and designer sunglasses. Portable drinks cabinets appearing from nowhere, a reputation that has soldiers wanting to take pictures with him. We knew right away that this was a guy who could command a room the second he walks into it, or a dirt patch in the middle of the desert.
Please, no gang signs. No, throw it up, I'm kidding.
A lot like other superhero alter egos, Tony is always cautious of opening up and letting anyone see his emotional wounds. Pepper Potts has given it a good go, but usually he reins things back in before things get too real. In this scene from Iron Man 3, he retreats to a house for shelter after crash landing. Moments later, he's greeted, or stuck up, by a kid with a potato gun. The two go back and forth, talking about family matters and science. The whole thing is quite heartwarming as we get a kid who's been neglected by his father and found solace in mechanical tinkering, just like Tony. Tony even talks to him about how to deal with his school bully, and even though this heart-to-heart has us jumping around the emotional spectrum, Tony remains Tony throughout, displaying some real tough love. I mean, after hearing about the kid's father leaving, he basically tells him to man up. And after discussing family, bullies and improvements to the Iron Man suit, Tony truly puts the cherry on the cake with this remark.
You know what keeps going through my head? Where's my sandwich?
We've all had a bit too much to drink at some point, and probably stood up and said something stupid to embarrass ourselves. Okay, maybe we weren't wearing Iron Man armor at the time, but still. During a low point for Tony in Iron Man 2, he finds himself drunk, fighting with a friend, and dragging himself away to feel sorry for himself. But nobody quite does hangovers like Tony Stark. Sat in a giant donut, munching away, he gives us one of the most memorable shots of the franchise. And he even gets to tell Nick Fury where to go.
I told you I don't want to join your super secret boy band.
Although, as Rhodey puts it, the pros of Iron Man being around definitely outweigh the cons, the military are still keen to keep Tony and his suit on a leash. So much so, they demand to have access to the suit so they can weaponize it their own way. But of course, Tony's having none of it. As well as demolishing the authorities and his rival Justin Hammer in front of the media, Tony hijacks the event with footage of failed attempts of groups around the world trying to replicate his Iron Man suit. Not only does this highlight his own superiority and intelligence, but he makes sure we all know who's boss with this knockout one-liner.
I have successfully privatized world peace.
So a lot of superhero films and their storylines are based around the fact that people don't know who the hero's secret identity is in the real world. But at the end of 2008's Iron Man, Marvel threw that out the window. After being bombarded with questions by the media about whether he is Iron Man, Tony realizes that it's probably better if he just comes clean. Agent Coulson does the legwork and puts together an airtight alibi, which places Tony far away from any Iron Man action. And Tony initially goes along with it. Until he doesn't. As you might expect, the media goes nuts.
I am Iron Man.
We each have our own way of doing things, so how do you think Tony would pop the question? Well, in true Tony Stark fashion. Put in a tight spot after Peter Parker turns down his proposal to join the Avengers, Tony swiftly resorts to another proposal. With a room full of reporters waiting for some big news, Tony thinks on his feet, and Pepper's face says it all. You've gotta love a romantic. We could watch Tony tinker with his Iron Man suit in his workshop forever. Watching him zip around like an excited kid at Christmas is truly something special. Although seeing him blast out of his garage into the night sky for the very first time is awesome, we wanted to focus on his cautious flight test in the Mark II suit beforehand. After realising that 10% thrust capacity is enough to knock his socks off, he goes into it a bit more gingerly, trying 1%. Bursting off the ground and hovering around his garage, we see the first signs of what Iron Man is capable of. And Tony's nervous yet excited face as he melts the paint on his sports cars and blows papers about the place is brilliant. So, can you fly?
Yeah, I can fly.
Another example of Tony in the mentor role can be seen when he recruits Peter Parker, aka Spider-Man, in Civil War. In this scene, the two legendary alter egos come together. Parker's angsty teenager meets Stark's arrogant Avenger. We're not going to go into how much we love Tom Holland and how much he nails the Peter Parker role, although we just did, but that's what makes this scene so great. The chemistry between Downey Jr. and Holland here is electric. We see Tony trying his best not to seem too excited, and Holland trying to conceal that he is in fact Spider-Man. The whole scene is awesome. It's like they've known each other for years. It's almost as though the cameras aren't even rolling, as the two just bounce off one another effortlessly. In fact, there's even some on-the-spot improv from Downey Jr. at one point, which totally fits with his character.
I'm gonna sit here so you move the leg.
This next entry is short and sweet. Many have tried and failed to trip up Tony in an argument, and when fighting words are thrown about between him and Captain America, Tony's capabilities are questioned. The Captain simply asks him, "What would you be without your suit?" And Tony's response is textbook.
Genius, billionaire, playboy, philanthropist.
Guy's got a point. Moving swiftly on from the genius philanthropist thing is this scientific marvel. It's easy to forget just how intelligent Tony is under his dismissive sardonic armour, but this scene reminds us just how amazing he is in a lab coat. Figuratively speaking, of course. Searching for a palladium replacement in order to save his life, Tony reconfigures his workshop in order to take a crack at making an entirely new periodic element. I'd have just gone to the pharmacy. After making a mockery out of Captain America's shield by using it to prop something up, gotta love that Easter egg, he gets to work. Slicing through the walls with a beam of light, wrench in hand, Tony brings out his scientist skills and completes the job. Top marks from us. Going back to his relationship with Peter Parker, from the get-go it's clear that Tony is a father figure for the teenager, helping him realise his potential, ensuring he doesn't push himself too far and put himself and others in danger. You've got to hand it to him. But parenting isn't all about praise. Sometimes you gotta be cruel to be kind, right? Following an almost completely disastrous incident at the harbour, Tony gives Peter a real dressing down. Away falls Tony's stony outer shell, and we see someone who clearly cares for Peter. Somewhere between angry and worried, he tells Peter off in a big way, and even takes away his suit. It turns out that this big slap on the wrist actually gave Peter the motivation he needed. Well, in Tony's eyes anyway. But it's great to see all the BS stripped away and see Tony the father figure come out.
Okay, it's not working out. I'm gonna need the suit back.
So where was Iron Man born? Well, after seeing the destructive debris that his weapons leave behind, Master of Chaos Tony Stark realises there's more to life than arming people. Kidnapped and trapped in a cave with nothing but his guilt, he puts his time to good use and creates the very first Iron Man suit out of scraps. It may not have the same slim-fitting lines and polished paint job, but it does what it's supposed to. It gets him out of there. Not only is a slick montage fun to watch, but it was the first time we got to see Tony's brilliant mind at work, a sign of otherworldly things to come. So what is Tony Stark without his suit? Well, he's certainly not a coward, that's for sure, and he clearly knows right from wrong. With New York in Loki's crosshairs, Tony and the God of Mischief have a little chat in Avengers Tower. Loki is quick to declare victory, but Stark puts him in his place, informing him that no matter what, he will not win.
There's no version of this where you come out on top.
Casually making himself a drink, Tony delivers a rousing speech with convincing ferocity and reminds us that hey, he's not just the good guy, he's a good guy. He wants to save the world and protect those that live in it. And for good measure, after being strangled and thrown out of a window, we see Man and Machine come together as he suits up mid-freefall. Godspeed, Tony Stark. So, what do you think of our list? Did we miss any epic Tony Stark moments out? Be sure to let us know in the comments section below, and don't forget to subscribe to The Binger for more awesome videos like this. See you next time.